Recording in progress.
Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Belmont Select Board. I am Chair Taylor Yates, and I am joined by my colleagues, Vice Chair Carol Barbarian.
Good evening.
Member Matt Taylor.
Good evening, Belmont.
And Town Administrator Patrice Garvin.
Good evening.
We will begin our meeting with agenda items that require the presence of town staff since their workday ends at 7 p.m. At 7 p.m., we will allow 15 minutes of public comment. Each commenter will be given up to 3 minutes to make their comments, and I will give them a 30-second courtesy warning. At the end of public comment, I will allow members of the board and town administration to make comments of their own. You can also email us at selectboard@belmont-ma.gov with questions and comments. Okay, so first on the agenda, we have community announcements.
Thank you. So this week on Wednesday, the Payson Park Music Festival 2026 evening concerts will continue on Wednesday, the 22nd, with the Twisted Jukebox Band, and the Sherry Harris Jones Children's Concert Series will continue on Thursday at 10 a.m. and will feature Vanessa and the Jumping Monkeys. On Thursday, the 23rd, we also have the Farmers Market in its usual location in the Belmont Center Municipal Lot from 2 until 3:30. So come check out the vendors and all their goodies. That's all we have.
Excellent. Thank you, Carol. Next up, we have the town administrator's report.
Sure, thank you. I have one item on my report this evening, and that is the recent closure of the municipal sports complex. The rink is experiencing some issues. I have the facilities director here, and members of the building committee are also here to update the board as to the conditions and where we are right now. I know there's another discussion on the transition plan, but I thought we could start with where we are with the rink and its operations. So Dave and Mark.
Yeah. Do you all mind introducing yourselves?
Sure. Dave Blazon, Director of Facilities.
Mark Haley, Chair,
Municipal Rink Building Committee?
Dante Manzioli, Vice Chair, this will be committee.
All right, so fill us in.
I'll just start off. So the rink is currently in a closed state because it's experiencing some humidity issues. The humidity tends to cause droplets of water from the girders above, which fall to the ice. And when it does that, it then freezes little, like half golf balls on the ice. So because of the fog that's on the ice and these formed ice pieces, it puts a unsafe condition on the ice for anyone to skate. They can't see them. We don't want people to fall, get hurt. So it's in the best interest right now till we get this problem rectified to keep the rink closed. You have a representative of the unit that's causing the issues, Novel Air, coming tomorrow, Tuesday. They're going to come out and they're going to do a full examination of the system. We have found a number of issues over the last month or so that have caused previous closures. We think we get it, and then something else pops up. So, just to keep it in a summary state, we're going to have them really go through the system and try and get it rectified. And once the system's fully functional, we'll open the rink back up.
So we are incurring some loss of revenue with obviously the closure of the rink. We've calculated somewhere around $22,000 in rental income that we've lost due to the issues of the rink and causing us to close. We are looking into ways to potentially, recoup or get reimbursed for that. We have conversations this week to try and see what the town's options are, whether it's through our insurance or some type of with town council. So we're looking into those. The other thing is the rink building committee met on Friday afternoon to talk about, to give the rink committee, the building committee an update on pretty much what Dave had just mentioned to the board and kind of what the plan is moving forward. So we are actively working on it. We are trying to be responsive, but until the vendor comes out tomorrow, we really are waiting to see what they have to say.
And if I can add to that, Patrice, on the meeting with the building committee on Friday, we had the designer, the architect, we had the MEP engineer, both of them were on with that so they could explain what the novel air system is supposed to do and not do. So we're trying to pull everybody together and we're taking it very seriously that this has to get fixed. But as Dave said, and just to give you a sense, first time they thought it might be a filter which was clogged with polymer, maybe. But then the next time they came back out again, they said, well, maybe it's a filter again. But what's happened the last 3 or 4 times is the belt that runs the flywheel essentially keeps breaking or stretching or coming off the belt. So that's something they want to check on tomorrow, why that's occurring. Did they provide the right belt for what's there? Yeah. There's also some electrical issues in a box that seems to be overheating. They're going to look into that. So we have a list, and I talked to Skanska this afternoon. Skanska's person is coming out with, and Dana's going to be there. So we should get a good report tomorrow.
Got it. So tomorrow we'll have a representative from Novel Air, which makes the dehumidifier that's breaking down, a representative from Skanska, who is our general contractor, 2 representatives from Skanska, who are our general contractor, and Dana works for you, right, Dave?
Dana's the systems manager for the town and school department. Correct.
Got it. So we'll also have a representative from facilities there.
And I'm also told we're supposed to have someone from Burnell.
Mm-hmm.
Burnell is the
Building controls.
The controls. So it's because right now Dana is not getting alerts of when this thing shuts down.
I see. So we don't know that it's shut down until it starts raining.
Correct.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I just want to add, the problem is with the dehumidification of the rink. The rest of the rink has a few bugs like every other building, but for the most part, this has been the thorn in our side, in the town side. So I think we're taking the right steps to address this so we can get this under control. Tomorrow we'll have a full report on it, right? And we'll know exactly what's going on with all what we did put in place at our emergency meeting, if this happens, because we can't afford to let this happen again. We just can't afford it. We get a temporary dehumidifier that's that Skanska agreed to help us with, and that's talking about cost. And we should, if this isn't resolved tomorrow, and if God forbid this breaks on Thursday, we should move forward with an emergency plan. We can't keep this keep this rink closed. We just can't.
So Skanska said they would cover the cost of a temporary dehumidifier.
No.
They didn't say that, but that's our intent as a committee to make sure they do it. They're responsible for it. We have a 1 year warranty. We've asked them to extend the warranty on the dehumidifier. They're looking into that, but they also have put in place that they can get this trailer unit and put it in place, because we cannot continue like this. Hopefully we have this all resolved. It's a moot point, but if this does happen again, we need to move forward with another
I
plan.
think what we need to assess tomorrow is if it needs to be fixed in some type of way, how long is it going to take? What parts do we need? I mean, we need an understanding of time before we can figure out how to then get the rink open if it's going to be down for a considerable
Right,
period.
it seems like what we have, the point that we reached is we know that it is not like a simple problem, like changing a filter, but we don't yet know what the root problem is.
The root
And
cause.
so
Yeah.
until we know that, we can't really give an answer on when it's going to be fixed, how it's going to be fixed, how much it'll cost to fix, and who's going to cover it.
And if we want to bring in temporary dehumidification to come in so we can at least open it, we want to kind of understand what we're dealing with before we make those decisions.
Yeah.
Because there's a cost to that, obviously.
And Skanska had this same piece of equipment at the rink during construction when we were trying to put down ice at the very beginning. So the dehumidification, and I had them contact the supplier. They have it available. Put it on a trailer, bring it here. One of the things we have to do first is talk to the fire department, because it would probably be set up on the fire line. So we need to make sure we set it up so the fire trucks can still get by.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just make a couple of comments. Number one, the thing about buildings is like most of your successes are invisible, but the challenges are very visible. So I think like Dante said, like 90% of this building is done and working just fine, right? It's just that when something's working just fine, you don't know it's working at all. I really appreciate all that you've done to get the facility built and the urgency with which you guys have been addressing this issue. You know, I know it's a setback, but all buildings have teething problems. And I know this whole thing has had a negative impact on our skaters, but charting the course forward means, you know, you got to collaborate and put this in context. I will just say going through the rink opening with you guys for the last 8 months has highlighted for me that the way things are structured right now seems like it's making it hard on everybody. It's like hard on the building committee. It's hard on staff. It's hard on the select board. So like once we get through this, maybe we just ask, are there any ways to make this easier on everybody so that, you know, we fully realize the value and fully appreciate the value of our volunteers.
Could you, if you don't mind, would you clarify, you know, like wasn't what's in place at this time for as far as committees go, or as far as this whole operation goes? I'm not sure where I follow you on that.
All I'm saying is that at the end of this, it might be just worth asking, hey, did we learn anything?
Do lessons learned.
Yeah,
And because we really have 3 building committees that are all pretty much ending at the same time.
that's right.
What do we learn on all 3?
That's right. I think there's probably a deep well of information we can get out of that.
Okay.
Well, thank you again for your service to Belmont.
I have a couple questions. So just from a technical standpoint, you know, I mean, obviously this is all new, very expensive equipment, and your efforts have been amazing through the entire project. And this is something that is so far beyond your control. So thank you for responding to it in the way that you have. But with belts falling off and breaking, it sounds like something either wasn't installed right or the system is faulty. Are we going to be looking tomorrow at whether or not this entire thing needs to be replaced? Because if we got a defective piece of equipment in this very important building to many people in town, that's so far beyond what anyone could have seen coming. So I just want to make sure we're not going to be put in a position that we're constantly battling against the warranty on this. And then when the warranty runs out, we are stuck with a potential problem. So that's something I'm hoping that we can look at tomorrow. Just in terms of the continual monitoring, do we have any options for like a remote temperature gauge? I know they have those little sensors that you can put in, you put them behind your washing machine and stuff, so if you know, something floods.
So there's a full reporting system that goes along with this system,
Okay.
and it goes to, as I said, my systems manager, Dana Gillis. So he looks at every single town building and every school building at about 5:30 in the morning. And he looks to make sure all the temperatures are ready for kids to go to school, town hall to open. If there's any alerts or any alarms, we have staff that will go out and triage the problem. And if it gets bigger or something that we can't handle, then we have all contracts in place to back us up. So this rink is no different from any of those towns. So the problem that we are seeing as these problems occur is he can see the reports, but he's not getting the alarms called in. So we need to look into the BMS system to find out why are these alarms not triggering. Like when the filter needed to be cleaned. There's a built-in alarm that says restrictive airflow, you need to change the filter. That didn't pop up. So, so there's some labor involved that we have to put into the rink above and beyond what we normally do until we can get these reporting systems back online. But there is definitely a system in place.
Okay,
And
yeah, I think I'm
if
just
I could
really
add to
interested.
that too, it's not just this dehumidification piece is three components. It does hot water, it does the dehumidification, it does air. So it's a big unit that's got three different components, and that's the one we had when we had leaks in the early in the year. Same unit. The other one that Dave and I have been struggling with, we're not getting any alerts on our ice machine either.
Okay.
And that's Brunel, that's what we want to get them in the same place, because that's even more money. And I'd like to understand how that's running.
Perfect. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're not in a position that we're still having this conversation a year from now. And so, when you do construction projects, if you get a faulty piece of equipment,
Right.
there's typically a point that we kind of make the demand that you need to replace this. This system, there is something wrong with it, or there's something wrong with the way it was installed. That's obviously beyond the control of any of you. But we hired the right people, we went through the right processes, bought the right equipment, but it still isn't working right. So I just want to make sure we're not going to be continuing to go down this path. And I would love to see, I like the idea of the temporary system, so that way, if we do have to flip on the backup, it reminds me a little of how the old rink used to run. And there's some jokes about the duct tape and extension cords over there. But when one system would go on, we'd flip on the old one and, to keep it running. But I do think, although it's not ideal, just to minimize the revenue losses, again, if we can really make a demand of the people that come out tomorrow that you need to get us back up and running, take the heat off of you guys, that'd be great. But thank you for all your efforts.
Any questions from you, Matt?
To what extent is this caused by summer humidity? I'm not looking for like a mathematical. I just heard people speculate that like it's humid during the summer and therefore it's humid at the rink and the whole system is not adequate.
Right. So you're going to find more humid weather, obviously, in the summer, and you have rink. So cool air, hot, humid air exacerbates the situation of humidity in the building. But when the system's not working, and the system's designed to work, 365.
So it's an issue of the system, not the weather?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify, because we have town meeting members even posting online speculating that it's the weather. And I just want to make sure that we're all communicating to educate and inform rather than to enrage and speculate.
That like this.
There was one discussion the other day that said maybe we should be cooling the air within the rink, which would help with reducing the humidity. I'm not ready to go there yet. I want to hear more.
Yeah, I mean, the rink is pretty, I don't know squat about this, but the rink does feel pretty cool. Like when you go in there, it's like,
The ice service.
About 45 to 50 degrees in the rink.
yeah, so.
Stoneham and Reading have older rinks that are 50 years old, 40 years old. They don't have any air conditioning units in there. They have similar dehumidifiers that are working. The problem is our dehumidifier is not working, and it's compounding our problem.
Yeah.
A lot of those rinks are also hot. You go into some of those rinks, like the upper decks in Stoneham, you're sweating in the summer.
Who's the who's heading up monitoring these repairs and is like the point person? Like, is that the committee? Is like how does that work right now?
Skanska is the GC associated with this, so they're assisting the town with the warranties. So they're making sure all the right people are coming in that built these systems and wired the systems and piped the systems. So they have all the key players in their Rolodex to make sure that they come out and address these. Also, they have the contracts, that they put in place for these systems. So
it's town staff working directly with Skanska to manage and enforce the warranty?
it's a little bit of both, because once the ring.
Both meaning?
Both being town and Skanska. So the town has it right now, all right? It was turned over. The committee manages it, but the town has the responsibility of maintaining and managing the rink from a physical standpoint. If we have any issues with it, then we reach out to Skanska for help, saying we need to get a certain contractor out here to assist with the fix.
Okay, but in the project, is there anything that we need from the rink committee, or like where does it?
We're going to be monitoring all the way through, Matt.
I'm sorry.
We're going to be monitoring at the same time all the way through. And that's why Dave and I are always communicating to make sure it gets coordinated.
But we're kind of glad that the committee still has this, because the committee has total control of Skanska at this point, because Skanska has to report to the committee and satisfy the committee and Mark. So, and they have been, is it fair to say they've been good on this whole thing?
Yes.
We have no problem when they do it. It's a problem that it breaks, it gets fixed, it breaks. Now it's happened 3 or 4 times. We've had enough. We want to either get it fixed or get another situation why they're working to fix it. Because we cannot continue going down this path. We're losing, you guys are losing revenue. We're losing ability, keeping the ice. People rented ice. People made commitments, and it's a snowball effect.
Okay, and Vice Chair Barbarian was asking, but I really didn't hear the answer. I think you were asking about if we were going to check into if the system is faulty. Are we checking into that? Is that the right question to be asking at this time?
I can't answer that specifically, but I would hope after Tuesday, when the company comes out, they will assess, all right, let's just say we have $1 million piece of equipment. They have $50,000 worth of repairs. Then there's no reason to replace this entire system, okay? They have a couple modules that are important to making sure the system runs, but they're fixable, they're replaceable, okay? If they come out and find that this pulley of this belt is irreplaceable and you have to come back with a whole new unit, then that's what they'll have to come back and say. I don't think this company's going to come back and say, yeah, we'll just put some duct tape on it and, get through the.
Well, it's like on the first one that we had the leaks in the water,
Right.
they replaced the entire core. And that's what you probably do here. You wouldn't replace the entire top unit. You replace the core of the section, which does the dehumidification.
Right.
But yes, the report we get from them tomorrow, Matt, we would use to assess, to answer Carol's question.
Okay, and the rink committee will assess that?
All the town and the rink committee. We work in unison.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think just if I can follow up on that quickly, my biggest concern with that is if we're doing repairs already, what are we doing to the overall lifespan of these systems? You know what I mean? When we buy this new and not refurbished, and now we're essentially ending up with refurbished equipment, I just really hope that we can look at what the long-term options are to make sure that there are either enhanced guarantees or different types, so even if it's warranties on different parts of it, that, we paid full price. And
We asked Skanska to give us an extended warranty on it based on the problems. So what they negotiate and they'll bring it back to us.
yeah, and even like a holdback or something, just to make sure that, give them the incentive to make sure this is really working properly, if that is at all within the capability of what we can ask them.
I don't think us as a select board is advocating for withholding paying our vendors, are we?
No, but I'm
Okay.
saying that if we need to hold back money to make sure that it's working properly so holdback isn't withholding payment. It is just an agreement that we're going to hold a certain amount of money equal to what it would cost to fix or replace. Until we know that it's working properly.
That's a
I mean, I don't know that we're
Yeah,
there
well,
yet,
and
guys.
that's what I said. I don't even know if it's an option.
I think where we're
yeah.
at is we're going to learn a lot tomorrow, right? And that we're going to learn hopefully what's going on, what do we need to do about it, and what the consequences of all this are. And until then, we're kind of just speculating. So I think let's get the data and let's get the facts and base our plans on that.
I think we set up a report out, Paul, Patrice, for like this Friday, Thursday or Friday.
I'll check. Okay.
Okay, things like
After last Friday, I thought it was after last Friday's call, we decided to set up another meeting.
I'll look into that.
Look into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Great, awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. I maybe actually, if you guys don't mind staying just for a few more minutes, we will skip to item 4 because I just want to mention what's going on with the building committee transition plan.
Town council waiting for us. Are we?
No, he said actually,
Okay.
Okay.
I just don't want to be paying council.
This will be quick because there's not a lot to report out on. There was going to be a lot to report out on, but then the dehumidifier thing happened and we spent our time on that. So Mark, Claire, and I have started scheduling time to speak like as chairs of our respective committees, like what the transition plan looks like from stewardship of the building committee and jurisdiction of the building committee to the town. Because as we just discussed, it's like a little bit of it's not like, it's not black and white. There's a little bit of gray in between to organize what that looks like to get us to fall town meeting so that we can do a clean handoff and let you guys, give you guys back your lives. So those meetings will be forthcoming and I think I'll keep you guys posted on what's going on.
I think our first one is like the 3rd of August.
Okay, sounds about right.
I think Claire's back.
That's right, because Claire's in, yeah. Cool.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we're not doing public comment until 7. Okay, now, why don't we go to item 3? Discussion on community path phase 1 MBTA lease update. I'm guessing this is either Matt or Patrice.
yeah, Nina's here too with general counsel. Oh, here he comes. He's coming over. So there is in your packet, I believe, draft, red line and complete copy of the lease. I actually met with the insurance company today to just get some ideas of insurance. So we do have that, but Nina is here to kind of discuss. I believe last time I gave the board a heads up that this was coming for your approval and that Nina, town council, is working with the MBTA to finalize language. As you can see, the document is pretty dense in terms of legality. So I don't know, Matt, if you want to say anything.
Yeah, I guess at a high level, this is generally take it or leave it with some red lines that they're working through. This is we're just discussing here the MBTA lease, so none of the other right-of-way acquisition. And I think as you read through it, there's just a lot of federal regulation in terms of railway rights. You can't give them up. You can imagine how hard it would be to ever acquire them again if they needed to. So there's things in here around environmental protection, which I'll ask town council to weigh in on, that, things like if the middle and high school ever ceases to exist, then they have the right to take away the tunnel and fill it back in. So there's all sorts of like very long caveats, and I wanted to just have multiple cracks at discussion this because we will need to take it or leave it on the 10th. And it is, for a very long time. I think it's 99 years.
Yeah.
And Mina, real quick, I just want to ask about an insurance question that came up today. It talks in the lease about the environmental liability insurance, but we were also told we would need pollution as well. And I didn't know if that had to be called out in the lease.
So they're effectively the same thing.
Okay.
Sometimes you hear it called as environmental liability, sometimes pollution legal liability. So Patrice, you and I could maybe check if the broker is seeing a distinction that is worrying them, but it should be the same type of policy.
Yeah, it looked like there was a distinction, but we can talk about it.
Okay. So one often has to do with when contractor as working and one is sort of if risks are found after that fact.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and both are typically needed, but since you're not hiring a contractor, it might be slightly different. So the contractor would get that one of those. So in any event, I'm happy to sort of give a high level overview. Mr. Chair, I don't know if you want to say anything else first or have any other sort of direction for us first.
No, the overview will be
Okay.
helpful. Thank you.
And I'm joined by my colleague Jillian Barger, who has been leading a lot of the effort on the real estate work for the Community Path project as a whole. Just as a very quick summary of where we are generally on the other easements, we are at the point where property owners have received their offers of just compensation and are, and you should have by August 10th, and the next time we probably will be in front of you, will be the date that all necessary votes on the select board side will be taken. We've worked closely with MassDOT to coordinate that process, and we've also worked closely with MassDOT on this process. As Mr. Taylor mentioned, the MBTA's form of lease is very much take it or leave it. They see their leases as essentially standard for all kinds of projects, not just right-of-way projects, but they have things that they have to put in there from the federal government, and they have things that they have to put in there as a matter of their coordination with MassDOT. And effectively, the reason that they prefer 99-year leases is that both federal aid requirements for railroad entities as well as just sort of frankly, the stance of any railroad I've ever worked with, but particularly the MBTA, is that you don't give up rail rights forever unless you have to, because you never know if you need them again. So a 99-year lease is effectively, in sort of from a legal standpoint, the equivalent of an easement or a conveyance, but it is often sort of the legal way to make sure that if at the end of a very long period of time something has significantly changed, as 100 years ago this would have been a very good place for more rail, if 100 years from now, if it is good for more rail or whatever else we're doing by then, MBTA has that option. So that's effectively why it's a lease, not an easement. It's sort of the standard that they use. The lease itself, you will see that there were not a lot of changes from the form that the town asked for, which is based on the forms other towns have used around the Commonwealth for these kinds of projects. And although it took quite a while to get here, that is largely because of being put in line with many other leases that the MBTA is working on. With lots of gratitude for MassDOT and Senator Brownsberger's office, we were able to get this back and are now in a place where we can continue to negotiate on this. On this front, the key pieces of the deal, as you will see, largely, as Mr. Taylor mentioned, involve, like I said, a lot of provisions that have to do with protecting the concurrent use of the rail line next door. And so there's a lot of the insurance provisions, a lot of the safety provisions have to do with that. On the environmental front, it also, contemplates the project being built out by MassDOT, which is the case here. Towards the back end, then I'll get to the environmental, you'll see a few exhibits. Those exhibits tend to be one of the few things that changes project to project because they get at the detailed special conditions that have to do with a particular type of project. For instance, in this case, the involvement of the tunnel. The team from Niche Engineering, who's working for the town as the town's engineer on this, has looked at this. They have some comments. We are trying to set up a meeting with MassDOT, their counterparts at MBTA through MassDOT to get those ironed out because there's some things that have been updated in the plans with MassDOT that somehow the MBTA has not fully caught in this version of the lease, and we want to make sure that's accurate in short order to get it in front of you. The last thing is the environmental. You'll see what looks like a lengthy redlining on the environmental. Having reviewed it, it is actually saying a lot of the same thing, but a different format based on a different form of lease that the MBTA wants to use and sort of appreciates having be the standard. They want to be the standard. Effectively, and this issue comes up with the environmental insurance, the town administrator Garvin just mentioned, the MBTA's normal stance on environmental matters, and this is true whether it's a bike path, whether it's MassDOT, cooperative funding, whether you're simply building across a project as a private property owner, their starting point, and one that they rarely, if ever, move off of, is that the user of the area is responsible for environmental damage or environmental contamination that is caused by the user, which is pretty typical for a commercial landlord-tenant lease. So the tenant would normally be responsible, or exacerbated by the tenant. Also, again, while negotiated sometimes is typical. What is a little atypical in a commercial deal is the MBTA's normal stance that if you discover something that is clearly pre-existing your tenancy, that is also the responsibility of the tenant. I have not, this is just sort of my understanding of the rationale. I'm not quoting MBTA on this, but if you think about it as an entity that owns rail all over the state, much of which was inherited from companies like Boston and Maine and other railroads that are no longer with us, or no longer with us to quite the same degree that they were in their heyday. The rationale is they would not be testing and going after contamination on railroad beds if somebody wasn't doing work there. So their view is if you touch it, it's sort of you own it. That obviously created concerns for environmental lawyers like myself, and actually one of our colleagues who's now retired, years ago when towns started doing things like rail trails. And through some of that effort, through some of that concern, the state passed a program where the MBTA's ability to seek indemnities and liability protection from municipalities is limited to the extent the municipality obtains environmental insurance, which is why it's recommended. It's why it's important. While the reasons for exposure would be largely at the outset, it also might happen during maintenance or other portions of it. And so that's sort of where this environmental language comes from. Again, both our draft and their draft say this in the same way by referencing the same part of the statute that covers this. But that is sort of the high level piece of it. And I want to stop there. I do want to also talk about the one of the details on it, which is the gas line. Jillian, did I miss anything from a sort of large scale real estate standpoint that I missed?
Those are really, no, you hit the most significant issues. The rest of the lease has to do with typical things you'd see in a lease about landlords' reserved access rights if they needed to be able to access their premises. I won't go through those in detail because they really are just your kind of market standard, reasonable things that you would see in any lease. If there's any particular questions, I can talk about them, but Mina hit the issues that are more front of mind.
Okay. And just quickly on the access, because I know this question has come up there. One of the things about this kind of lease, and I see that Jason Sobel is on from Niche if there are questions, is that the plans matter as much, if not more, than the legal language. And so, for instance, the plans of how Alexander Ave will be used in the future. Alexander Ave, as was mentioned at town meeting, the town has minimized the amount of easement it needs, and that'll be over a portion of what is now the Alexander Ave extension for the purposes of building the bike path. So it does not sort of preserve a separate point of access for MBTA usage, et cetera. They do have access to the whole of the trail, as if you've been on the Minuteman, other bike trails, you sometimes see the occasional maintenance truck there. They may need that to get to the rail line, but actually, unlike today, they'll have different opportunities to because of the pavement there. So that is one point that is not explicitly in the lease, but it is in the plans, not shown as a separate means of maintenance access. Any questions on any of that?
Can you remind me, when do we need to finalize this by?
So this, Mr. Chair, will be part of the package of votes that Jillian and I plan to bring before you on August 10th. We are working with the T to make sure things are cleaned up and corrections are made that Niche has asked for to the lease language. We are also making sure there's no more what's called the canvas happens at the MBTA, where they canvas for the different departments to see if anybody has other safety and practical concerns to communicate to the town or MassDOT for the engineering process. Once all of that is wrapped up, they know that August 10th is our vote day. This would come before you alongside the votes for the private, temporary, and permanent easements, a vote with the to allow for the use of the DCR permanent easement over one of the parcels, which is essentially complete. We have the sign off from DCR, but that vote would come to you. And the very important donation from the Belmont Citizens Forum for the easement rights that they have acquired over the years to help build the path. All of those would come before you on the night of August 10th. You'll be reading, I apologize, lots of motions and voting on lots of language that isn't fun for anyone to listen to, but is critically important. And Jillian will make sure she makes sure I got the right one, and I'll make sure you have the right one.
Got it. Thank you.
Just to add to that a little bit, it may take some time for MBTA to actually sign or execute the lease. To some extent, our immediate audience is just checking off enough of the boxes with the MBTA so that MassDOT will accept that the town has done what we need to acquire the right-of-way rights. Got it.
Yeah, and to that point, thank you, Matt. That's a good point. The MassDOT is well aware that that would be out of the town's control, and they have made it clear to us as long as there's the agreement in principle and the town is voting its version of the lease, it does not need the ink on the signature line from the T to be able to keep things moving.
What about the gas line, Mina?
So I will defer a little bit to Jason and I think you and Matt, if there are others on the just practical piece of this based on your conversations of it. But the gas line, just to be clear, there is the current gas line that runs down Alexander Ave is to serve the MBTA's purposes, is going to be relocated to run through the tunnel and alongside, in some cases underneath the path. They do in any lease reserve the right for utilities. One thing we will want to make sure we're clear with them is what their plans are for ensuring safety and adequate maintenance of that gas line and so that doesn't impact. They do have an obligation not to impact the use of the path, which is as a as a bike and walking trail. And so that is ultimately the MBTA's obligation, but we want to make sure that's coordinated properly in advance of entering into a long-term lease.
Yeah, these are, it comes in where the tunnel is at Alexander Avenue. It'll run about 400 feet along the path in either direction. This also allows them, I think, to remove the propane tanks. And this is to go to, I think they're like heater switches. Niche can give more detail.
Thanks.
Okay.
And it will be the MBTA's gas line and theirs to maintain.
Gotcha. All right. Any questions from you, Carol?
No, great update. Really appreciate it. And I love that we're getting this out into the conversation before we have to do all the motions on it in August.
Yeah.
That's helpful. So thank you very much.
Great. Anything else from you, Matt?
No, it's not unless you have questions.
I do not. Thank you, Mina. Yeah, Jillian.
Yeah, do you just want to ask if Jason has anything?
Oh, it's Jason.
Jason Solo from Niche.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. Unless you have specific questions, frankly, I think Mina and Matt summarized the gas line pretty well.
Wow. I've learned from you.
Right on. Cool.
I'm still not willing to be the engineer on the project, Jason, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you all.
Well, thank you all. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have vote to accept committee resignation, Ellen Sullivan from the Council on Aging. This is pretty straightforward. She wants to leave. I see no reason to stop her. So,
Now, Ellen has contributed at a very high level to the Council on Aging. She's been involved in that and many other community organizations for a long time. So I think the only other thing is to just thank her for the service.
yeah, thank you, Ellen.
A motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, move to accept the resignation from Ellen Sullivan from the Council on Aging.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Alex.
Okay. Next up, we have appointments to the Housing Trust and Recreation. So why don't we start with the Housing Trust? So I reached out and talked to the chairs. I think they tended to take no position on any of the candidates. They said nice things about all the candidates, but there's 4 and we have 3 spots. So I think it's down to us. In terms of who I think would be who I'd like to see on the committee, I'd love to reappoint Karen Bowerly. She's brought a lot of insight and thoughtfulness to the trust, and she has added perspective as a member of the Disability Access Commission, especially that's especially important as we are doing the redevelopment of Sherman Gardens, which is going to feature a considerable component of making it more accessible. She's also sharing the responsibilities of the secretary with Meg Claw. Or is it Claw or Clo? You guys know?
I do not.
All right, I'll go with Clo. And I apologize if I got that wrong, Meg. And then Meg, I'd love to reappoint Meg. She's got a long career in community investment, funding housing, educational and social services organizations, and she's been active in multiple organizations serving families and children. She brings this experience and commitment to her work on the trust, advocating for greater access to affordable housing in Belmont. And then the third one, I'd love to see Joe Wright on the Housing Trust. He's been a very consistent advocate for affordable housing in Belmont, having brought forth housing-related amendments to town meeting and organized local support for abundant housing in Massachusetts. I think someone like him would be a great addition to the Housing Trust as our town navigates the region's housing crisis. Any comments or questions from you guys or any thoughts?
I agree with a lot of what you said. I do think that Tommy Olson also brings a lot to the table. She has been on the trust for a long time. I think that balance is important in these committees, and having her voice does often bring in a different perspective. So I do think that there is value there. But we have 3 other very qualified individuals as well.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree. And I would really like to see, I just really like to see Joe in this role. As he's been, again, he's just been so consistent, and I appreciate that. So, I don't know, Matt, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I strongly support adding Joe Wright to the committee. And I thank everyone who's served on this committee. I think their work is really important, especially with the projects that are coming up and the redesign of Belmont Village. So I would support a slate of Joe Wright, Karen Bowerly, and Meg Clapp.
Agreed. So why don't we do the reappointment motion for Karen and Meg, and then the appointment motion for Joe.
Okay. Move to reappoint Meg Clow to the Housing Trust for a 3-year term to expire June 30th, 2029.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Sorry, I went out of order.
That's okay.
We got that.
Move to reappoint Karen Bowerly to the Housing Trust for a 3-year term to expire 6/30/2029.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Move to appoint Joe Wright to the Housing Trust for a 3-year term to expire June 30th, 2029.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Thank you all for your service.
Cool. On to the rec commission. So, again, we have 4 applicants for 3 slots. So, I guess Courtney Eldridge is rolling off. Mike Parcio is rolling off. Thank you both for your service to the Recreation Commission. We have Barb Taylor is applying for reappointments, and then we have Catherine Oates, Brian Keefe, and Cedric Dubois. So I think Karen would be an awesome addition. She's served on the rink building committee, and she's a hockey mom, and I think it's really important. Sorry, Catherine Oates. Yep. I think. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I just started reading from top and bottom. Okay. So yeah, Barb Taylor. So let me start with Barb because she's a reappointment. She's set up just a regionally famous program in Belmont women's hockey. There aren't a lot of programs like it, which targets women who didn't play youth hockey or college hockey, which makes skating more accessible to more people in our community. Catherine Oates would also be great. She's a hockey mom who served on the rink building committee. And as we get the rink off the ground, it's important to have someone from that committee on rec. I'm also pretty excited about Cedric Dubois. He's a phenomenal soccer coach who's committed a lot of his life to youth athletics. I actually got his name recommended to me by 3 people. And I think really, I think what's really important to me is he is among the 26.2% of Belmontonians who were born in another country. And as someone who served as a soccer coach, I can tell you that athletics is like a common denominator for a lot of families in this community. I think it's important to have representation from our immigrant community on American Commission. So that's who I'd be provide support.
So to echo some of what you said, Barb Taylor is a very impressive individual. I've had the pleasure of working with her and also benefiting from so many of the ways that she contributes to our community, as have my children. Catherine Oates, as you mentioned, she is a coach. She's been very involved, grew up in town, very familiar with programs, dedicates a lot of time to the program. Brian Keefe, also a coach, very involved in many programs, has served on different boards. I actually coached softball with him for some time.
Right on.
So he is great, and I have heard great things about Cedric as well, and love mixing up the representation.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Matt, do you have any?
We have 3 spots and 4 candidates, and it sounds like I would support a slate. I can just yes to what you guys have said. I don't have new points to add, but I would support a slate of Barbara Taylor, Catherine Oates, and Cedric Dubois.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that slate too. So if we get a motion.
Move to reappoint Barbara Taylor to the Recreation Commission for a term to expire June 30th, 2029.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Move to appoint Catherine Oates to a 3-year term to the Recreation Commission, expiring June 30th, 2029.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move to appoint Cedric Dubois to a 3-year.
Sorry, did you vote?
Sorry, aye.
There, okay.
Move to appoint Cedric Dubois to a 3-year term on the Recreation Commission for the term to expire June 30th, 2029.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And thank you all.
Thank you all. And thank you to Brian for applying too. I know Brian's very qualified in a field of very qualified candidates.
Yeah. Great to be spoiled for good choices.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just see. You got 5 minutes till public comment. And I don't think we have anything that we can squeeze into 5 minutes. So do you guys want to take a 5-minute recess?
Unless you want to do an extra 5 minutes of public comment if we need it, if people are ready to go early.
I'm kind of like on this train of, I promised 7 o'clock. So I will deliver 7 o'clock, no sooner, no later.
Is it, how about item 11, discussion of draft rink management policy? Do you think that needs an extent?
Why don't we see how far we get on this and then maybe maybe continue. So this is, so one of the things I talked about at the emergency meeting of the Rink Building Committee on Friday is, so first of all, you could just get a sense on that phone call that a lot of people are ready to move on to the next thing. And so to me, doing that well means giving the committee a place to land, a time to land it, and a path to get there. So we talked about the transition plans. That's the third part of that. I think we're all in agreement. We want to see these building committees wrap up at fall town meeting. And then this is the place we basically want to land. So it is, just pull my notes. So the, here we go. There's basically, okay, so when we were talking about liaisons last week, I was trying to think about what exactly this role is and why we created it, because it was never really a liaison role. There was no committee that it was liaising with. We just called it that because we needed to do something and we didn't have any time for semantics. So I stepped back and asked, what does a good rink management structure look like? And created this policy to complement the policies we've already done. So what this does is it affirms the day-to-day operations of the rink, like the rest of the town generally, is strictly the responsibility of staff, not the board. No member of the board's involved in making management decisions, staff decisions. No one's doing it, and certainly no one's doing this on their own. We're a public body that must execute our responsibilities as a group in public. It also affirms that our role in managing the rink, like other aspects of town government, is to set policy. And we have the rink policy handbook, which we will continue to maintain authority over. And the town administrator needs to follow any applicable policies we set down in that handbook. And then I think this acknowledges the community significance of skating by allowing the select board to designate a rink ambassador who can fulfill ceremonial duties to show our support for the rink and our skaters. As someone who grew up skating and grew up playing hockey, I get that this particular sport is not just a sport in this part of the country. And so I think it's perfectly fine for the select board to have somebody who signals our support for that cultural significance.
My biggest question is just in terms of where we stand with this versus the bylaw, the town bylaw under the Recreation Commission charge, where it says, and I pulled it up, it's section 40-325, and this has come up a lot last year when different aspects of the rink were being discussed, but it does read under the Recreation Commission section that the commission shall be responsible for the establishment of policies for the use of all playgrounds and recreation facilities of the town, which are not under the control of the school department. The commission and the school department shall cooperate to the end that optimum use may be made of all town's recreational facilities. So I would just question, where does that put us versus this? Because I do think that there's been really good collaboration with the rec department and executing the operations for public skate and other things that have been happening down at the rink. But I just want to make sure we're not putting something in place that's in conflict with bylaw.
Yeah, maybe you could, I don't know if we still have.
I think the town administrator act did that all by itself.
Yeah, because we had this conversation with council and maybe you guys remember the contours of that in a way that I do not. I know we had this conversation and council basically said that this falls under the town administrator.
It's especially because I think I don't want to recreate the confusion around the keyword recreation as opposed to a capital R recreation. So just because recreation happens at this facility doesn't mean it is a recreational facility as a defined legal term. But we went through this at town meeting. I just want to avoid recreating that confusion.
Yeah, but council did advise this falls under the purview of the town administrator.
Right, but wouldn't you agree that there's some benefit to tying in rec on this just from staffing and things like that with the way that this is staffed versus the pool and other things. I think there's a lot of similarities where.
Well, rec rolls up to the town administrator.
I just,
No,
it sounds like we're not going to get through this before
Yeah.
you need to run public comment, but maybe we can pick it up right after public comment.
I agree. Okay, so let's see, we got just like 30 seconds to go, but why don't we, I'll start this, I'll start 30 seconds early. Okay, Lisa Pargoli had her hand up first, so why don't I allow her to talk?
Hi, Lisa Pargoli, Precinct 4 Town Meeting Member. I have a comment and a question. My comment is that all of these issues that we're now having with the rink and have had with the rink since it's been in building mode and even before was extremely foreseeable, absolutely foreseeable, but totally ignored and denied and just left as usual, business as usual for Belmont, and leaving it to the taxpayers and the residents to bear the burden. And I say that because I spent 5 years every week at every meeting to the high school watching Skanska screw us. They took millions of dollars and didn't do the work, were never held accountable. There was one meeting, but nothing ever happened to that. That just goes for par to say, just lip service. And then I sat there because of that, watching at the start of the rink building committee meetings. And as soon as I saw them hand Skanska the $30 million contract for the rink, I piped up and I was livid, but I got muted, insulted, demeaned as usual. I came to Patrice at the next select board meeting wondering, you believe that this is a good idea with all the issues? And I was told that it wasn't your problem, but I had to go to the moderator. And I did, because it was out of control and outrage. Would have been nicer if there were more people on the committee in the building or whatever it was, all of those people that actually had rink building experience, number one. But they handed in Skanska. They got the contract. How did that ever happen? I don't know. But before the project even started, they were responsible for an oil leak. Cost us almost a year delay and $150,000 a month. And we've had nothing but problems since then. And then all the money we piled into this instead of $10 million for a rink, and we can't even have the activities and revenue that we were promised, because that's how we approved it. You always the promises and then never the results. It's disgusting. And it was very, very foreseeable, like everything, because we don't maintain things. We don't do the right things over and over again. It's just proven facts. There's nothing more to be learned. If we haven't learned by now, we're never going to learn. And my question is, now that we're not in operation of the rink completely, you said we lost about $27,000 in revenue. Well, how much are we losing? Because are we paying the director,
30 seconds, Lisa.
Yep. Are we paying? How much are we losing in paying salaries? And I'm not saying these people, it's not their fault. So it's not that they shouldn't get paid. But how much are we now paying people in all this benefits for work they can't work? So there's a lot more than $27,000 in lost revenue. But that's never the point with you people. It's always, we're getting in this much money, but the costs are usually twice as much of what we take in.
Thank you, Lisa.
Truthful. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any comments in the room? Yes, come on up. If you don't mind introducing yourself or sitting at the table and introducing yourself.
Yes, and you want me to? I think they're still on the rink business. Oh, are you?
No, we're doing public comment on anything.
Public comments, do you want me to speak first? Okay, I'll speak for myself first. Hi,
Sure.
my name is Joanna Dunn. I'm at 24 Ridge Road. I've prepared a statement, so it'll be very short. I do have photos if you'd like them. I don't know if that's appropriate to hand out.
You're absolutely, yeah, that's whatever you'd like.
Thank you so much. Good evening, members of the Select Board, and thank you so much for your ongoing hard work and dedication to our town, which I truly appreciate. I'm here tonight regarding the Chestnut Street project. While the building inspector states that the blueprints show a compliant attic, paper plans do not always match the physical reality on the street. It is not a matter of judgment to determine a half-story definition. Section 1.4 in our town bylaws requires the project to pass every objective structural test physically on site as built, not just on paper. The massive scale and the alignment of the top floor windows suggest a full 3-story vertical massing rather than subordinate dormers. As currently framed on the north-facing side, you can see the vertical framing wall extends straight up for multiple stories, severely compromising the required sloping roofline profile. Furthermore, by extending the foundation 11 inches into the water table without proper permits, the contractor created their own structural complications. Under Massachusetts law, this is a self-created hardship, and the town cannot use it to waive our zoning rules. Because this project sits on the absolute geometric edge of the law, a casual check is insufficient. I respectfully request that the board require an independent third-party architectural peer review to perform a formal physical field measurement of these dimensions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Let's go online, TMM8. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, sorry. I was in a rush throwing on my name, and typing out Fitzy Cowing was going to take too long. Sort of written notes and kind of off the cuff speak. I wanted to speak today to the draft rink management policy. While I appreciate Mr. Yates's enthusiasm in working on this policy, I have to strongly disagree with the process and the assessment of the select board regarding the parties in charge of such a process. As Ms. Berberian noted, we have an existing bylaw that states, as she said, that all recreation facilities are to be managed and policies regarding them are to be created by the Rec Commission. And I don't understand the whole idea that we're getting into capital R versus little r. The Underwood Pool is a recreation facility. It is managed by the Recreation Commission. There is literally no difference that I can see between the Underwood Pool and the rink. It's the exact same concept. The prior rink was run and managed by the Rec Commission. And furthermore, I would like to highlight that the bylaw also states that the commission is, you nominate the 9 members, or you appoint the 9 members, which you guys just did. That's great. And then the following subsection B, reads, the select board acting as the board of park commissioners shall be responsible for the operation of the rec department and shall appoint a director of the department. And then that the commission shall be responsible for the establishment of policies for the use of playgrounds, facilities, recreation facilities of the town, not under control of the school department. So I hear you saying that the town administrator is in charge, but the only 2 authorities per our existing bylaw are the Rec Commission and you, the select board, as the recreation commissioners. So I'm not sure how or why or what kind of backwards math we're doing to try and change our existing bylaw authority-driven commissions, but I find it deeply problematic, and I find it par for the course lately where somehow town council or other bodies find a way around the authority that exists by law. We've had town meeting referred to as an advisory capacity when we are the legislative body in town. And here we have yet again something that is bylaw directed that you are somehow allowing to be skirted around. And I find that deeply problematic.
Thank you. Do you have another comment in the room?
Yes.
You don't mind coming to the table and introducing yourself?
So Rosa Neal, and thank you for your emails back and forth. So I prepared something to read
basically, I sent a letter about the curb cut approval for the Chestnut Street project, and nobody got back to me from the town. And so I had included the select board, and so Taylor had written back, but I did not receive a reply from RF or anybody else initially about the curb cuts. And when I brought up the concern, he basically wrote back and just changed the subject and wrote saying that that I was liable to cause the planning board to be in contempt, basically, of open meeting laws, when I was just looking for a yes or no, has the curb cut been approved? And so I tried to clarify that. And it's a safety issue. It's right by a park, which really brings up a lot. So if I I want to read the letter that I sent to the everybody in the town that I can find the address for and get a response about whether or not what is going to happen regarding the curb cut. Because when I called DPW, they confirmed that there wasn't a curb cut permit that had been on file yet. So the first letter I wrote says, I'm writing as a Maple Street resident to register my formal objection to the application by Mr. Assad Hamad to amend the special permit and design site plan approval and the case number on Chestnut Street. Because the builder has been allowed to continue building while waiting for the planning board to meet to address violations of the originally approved structure, the town has a critical opportunity to correct a massive safety oversight regarding the proposed vehicle access layout. The original house on this corner lot exclusively used Chestnut Street for parking access. The new construction plans introduce a dual access layout that attempts to force a new driveway and curb cut onto the mid-block section of Maple Street. Under Belmont General Bylaw, Article 8, Section 2, no public curbing may be altered or removed for a driveway curb cut without an explicit separate written permit from the Select Board or the DPW. I'm formally questioning whether the specific curb cut has received independent written approval and whether any traffic or pedestrian safety reviews were ever executed. I urge the town to deny any Maple Street curb cut authorizations based on severe, unaddressed, localized conditions. And there's the first point, lack of safety vetting for use demand location. Per town policy, streets adjacent, thank you. Streets adjacent to public parks like PQ Park are heavily scrutinized use demand zones. A mid-block driveway here places an active vehicle hazard directly across from a high-traffic youth park, precisely where young children routinely cross the street from being between tightly parked cars. And then there's severe weekend driveway obstruction. And then finally, compounding the bottleneck, I get a lot of cars that park in front of my driveway. They're just edged over, and so I'm taking away more spaces.
Okay.
So I would appreciate, I don't know if the answers can be given, and I apologize. I know that I have a diagnosis basically that makes it hard to speak, and thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Rose O'Neill.
Rose O'Neill.
Thank you.
Yes, we have time for one more comment, and Ira Morgenstern is next online. Ira, go ahead.
Hi, this is Ira Morgenstern, Precinct 7 town meeting member. Last week, I raised the issue of town citizens getting documents made available in advance of the select board meeting. I didn't get an answer, but I'd like to emphasize that question again because I did a little research. And according to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 25A and B, it is sub-point 7E, it requires that documents delivered in advance to remote participants that the chair reasonably anticipates will be used during the meeting. In this case, that would clearly have been that draft rink management policy. I think the policy is clear. And it is, it's law. So let me go to the next issue. I have been trying to get rink operations financials for quite a while. I think as many of you know, and certainly Taylor, you know. I, as others, were surprised to hear that the rink will result in a $500,000 negative operating impact in 2027. One is I request a 2026 and 2027 P&L for the rink. And as part of that, let's identify the costs that fall into shared services that are not in that P&L. Second, I suggest that the select board require that operating cost increases due to new buildings or significant capital expenditures be publicized before the capital expenditure is approved. We discussed the capital expenditure, but not the impact on the town P&L. We got unexpected increases in costs, including maintenance for the schools, the library, and the rink. And
You have 30 seconds, Aaron.
Thank you. Ignoring these operating costs in an expenditure approval process is contrary to good financial management. Setting fees with outside parties without knowing your operating cost, or at least divulging it, is rather unusual. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the end of public comment. My apologies to Mr. Madden. I'm sorry, we run out of time, but you are welcome.
And you said to come here.
Okay, I apologize, but we do have a public hearing that starts at 7:15 that we have to move to. I'm sorry, but we do 7 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. for public comment.
Well, if you had 20 people here for public comment, would you deny other people?
Yes, I would. That is exactly how it works. Okay, but I'm sorry, but you're also welcome to email us.
I said that beforehand.
I said at the beginning of the meeting, we would do public comment for 15 minutes at 7 o'clock. Okay, well, I don't know when to tell you, but I apologize for the inconvenience. Okay, we have a hearing for discussion and possible vote on a liquor license application from Saab Belmont Corporation doing business as Belmont Wine and Beer at 32 London Street for an off-premises Section 15 package store wine and malt beverages license. We have the applicant here.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
My name is Mario.
You don't mind coming to the table and introducing yourself?
Yep. My name is Mario Sepulveda, and so I buy in.
You can have a seat if you want. Yes.
So I'm buying the business from Roxana. It's right here on 32 Leonard Street.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we try to do right now.
I believe council is here as well.
And I have two grocery stores in Waltham, and I always live in Waltham for 31 years, and I was around Belmont, and I like Belmont. This is a great opportunity for me in case it happens.
That's great. So, sorry, just to be clear, so this is Belmont Wine and Beer. This is a new shop. This is not an existing shop.
This is a transfer of ownership, but our home rule for liquor licenses does not allow the transfer of liquor licenses.
Yeah.
So they have to give up the previous one and then a new application.
Gotcha. Okay.
So here we are.
Awesome. I was like, I feel like the store already exists. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
That was sick.
So, do you guys have any questions?
No, I followed up with the previous owner and really glad that the store will continue. And from everything that I've seen, it seems like it is going to be in good hands and a nice continuation of an asset in the center.
Though it's a public hearing, you need to allow.
I will.
Yeah. Business.
I'm first seeing comments from the board. So Matt, did you have any comments or questions?
No, second, welcome. Glad the business will continue. I think people really enjoy having such a nice wine and beer shop in our town center. It looked like the application was all in order. Just for people following along at home, we are the local licensing authority. And then this also has to jump through all the state hoops, but we have to review and approve it first, and then it goes to the state. So I appreciate you going through all those hoops. And welcome.
And then before we go to public comment, Patrice, was their application all in order?
Yep. Yep, all the paperwork's in order for us. All we need is a vote for the board and then we can submit it to the ABCC.
Okay, cool. Let's go to public comment. Is there anyone in the room? Yes.
My name is Dan Frame.
Do you mind coming to the table so they can see you at home?
Yep. Dan Frame with the landlord representation, and just want to say how happy we are to have the transition here with very little downtime.
Awesome.
And Roxana, who you mentioned, just had to quit for personal reasons, but it's nice to have a smooth transition. So we fully support it.
Awesome. Great deal. Great. Thank you. And then are there any comments online specifically related to this hearing?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm Loretta.
Yes. Sorry. Who?
Okay. I'm Loretta McCleary. I'm Mario's attorney. One thing to know about Mario is that he does own and has a liquor license for a store that's located in Waltham. So he has previous experience, running the business. He also has a grocery / market in Waltham as well. He's an entrepreneur, and I think will, run the store efficiently and follow whatever rules that the town of Belmont has.
Great, thank you. The first hand I see is Richard Madden. Go ahead, Richard.
I didn't lower my hand from the previous discussion. I should have done that.
Okay, no worries.
I don't have any comment.
Okay, thank you.
On this issue.
Okay, thank you. Lisa Pargoli.
Hi, thank you, Lisa Pargoli. You didn't answer my question from the previous thing. I was waiting for an answer regarding.
Lisa, I'm sorry, Lisa, this is specifically about this public hearing.
Excuse me, I asked you a question and you didn't answer it. What's wrong?
Lisa, we're in the middle of a public hearing. You are welcome to send us email.
No, you should have answered my question.
Lisa, if you don't stop interrupting, I will mute you.
You know what?
Thank you.
You. Yeah. You're a jerk.
Thank you, Lisa.
Town meeting.
Okay. Any other questions or comments related to this public hearing? Okay, then I would take a motion for approval.
Move to approve the liquor license application from Sa Belmont Corporation, DBA Belmont Wine and Beer, 32 Leonard Street, for an off-premises Section 15 package store wine and malt beverages license.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Do you need a roll call, Patrice?
No.
Okay, good. All right, congratulations and welcome to Belmont.
Thank you.
Okay. So I said I would give you guys time to make comments immediately after public comment, but since we had the hearing, I did not. So please go ahead. Any responses, comments on things we heard or said?
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I was going to ask, but I respected that you wanted to keep the time of the public hearing on. I do want to start by saying I think that there are occasions where we do need more than 15 minutes. Limiting it to 3 minutes limits us to 5 people that we can hear from. And I think it's really hard when we have someone in the room that came out of their way to speak to us. I do understand we have the time constraints of the public hearing, but I would like that to be something that we address. There is a lot that happens at these meetings. We don't want to extend the time frame too much, but when there is very limited public comment allowed on different topics, I do think that we should look at ways that we can hear from people. We do get emails. I know that most of it, we try to respond to most, but I do think that it is part of the process to let people be heard. To kind of summarize on what was talked about, Lisa, I think we addressed a lot of the rate concerns, and Eric, I know, has been helping out with everything, so it's not that there has not been work happening, even though the rink has been closed. On the Chestnut Street concerns, we've been seeing many messages about that. I did check that that is on the planning board agenda for tomorrow night. Want to clarify that it is complicated how the second floor half-story calculations happen, but would encourage people to come to the planning board meeting tomorrow night in person or via Zoom. I commented similarly on what Betsy Cowing had mentioned on the rink versus the pool. So I know we'll continue that conversation. And I do, as I had mentioned before, I think that some of these documents would be helpful to have available in advance.
Okay, thank you. Matt, did you have any comments?
No, I mean, I think one area where Ms. Pargoli and I agree is try to learn from the experience of our building committee so far. So that kind of goes back to lessons learned. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to weigh in on specific planning board issues. The curb cut may be a specific select board issue, but the planning board is an independent body, and I am not the liaison to that issue. On the rink policy, I think it's really important that all select board members continue to emphasize the difference between state law and town law and which one takes precedence. The Town Administrator Act is a state law as a home rule and takes precedence, and it's really important that we all communicate to educate on that matter. For the, I kind of touched upon the curb cuts, but that's going to need to come up for approval if it hasn't already. And then lastly, I believe Mr. Morgenstern referenced documents being available. I would want to emphasize the word that he said, which is distributed to participants. And that means members of the committee in advance. Am I missing something there?
No,
Okay.
Mr. Morgenstern also called the office today looking for the document. He just couldn't remember which one he wanted.
And then lastly, I want to emphasize to people following the home that we do have to comply with public records requests and an open meeting law. Public record requests involve documents that exist and not necessarily making documents to suit a specific request. But I take to heart some of the things he was asking for in terms of trying to better understand the budget. And I'm happy to nerd out on the budget with anyone and everyone.
Great, thank you. Do you all want to return to our conversation about the rink management policy?
Can I just add, I'm very sorry to the individual who we didn't have time to get to for public comment. I appreciate trying to strike a balance. Sometimes there's public comment that there's no one's here and it takes 0 minutes. And sometimes there's a few extra, and that's why we have email addresses and stuff like that, and also set up liaisons on particular issues. But please do write us selectboard@belmont-ma.gov.
Thank you. Okay, so back to the rink management policy. So I think we left off on the question of the rec commission versus the town administrator. I think I'm in agreement with Matt that state law takes precedent over general bylaws, and the Town Administrators Act clearly states that it falls under the care and custody of the town administrator.
Can I just add to that a little bit? Because it kind of litigates, like, I think some of the problem is when people, we discuss this via keyword rather than understanding the structure. And I think Ms. Cowing raised a very understandable point of confusion. The pool, the Underwood Pool, is a recreation facility because it's managed by the Rec Commission, not the other way around. Mm-hmm. And the rink is managed by the town administrator's office and their staff. And so that's where the, I think, confusion, but very understandable, right? Because it's, it all says recreation. Mm-hmm. And, gosh, wouldn't be the first time that the way the law works is counterintuitive.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments?
No, I just would, regardless of how we want to go forward with this, and if we want to interpret the bylaw in conflict with state law, which I can respect that, I feel that this is a little premature and could really benefit from some public collaboration. I think especially with the recreation department, looking at how the rink is going to be the most successful, I think does really require more input from rec. And I think it can only really benefit this situation where it just doesn't take effect until after the committee is dissolved. I'd like to spend a little bit more time on this and also go through the rink policy handbook just to make sure that we're covering all bases.
Yeah, I mean, I will just add, this policy is not like super complicated. It just says that, okay, at the layers of management as the select board is kind of the public advisory board on this that sets down policies. The town administrator executes those policies. We are also carving out like a special ceremonial role to let the community know how much this facility means to us. And it just takes effect when there's no more building committee.
Yeah, I think for the rink ambassador position, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what that would look like, because usually the select board gets invited to different ceremonial things. You as the chair typically are the one that is invited to speak at different things. So I'm not sure what role that would fill.
I think it is up to us. We can get creative about how we want to do it. Or we could not, I mean, and also, by the way, the policy says may, in case we don't want to do it at all. And we could certainly strike it and consider the policy as amended.
Hey, can I, one thing I'd like to hear more about, because we have raised questions about appearance of conflict of interest and other questions. And I'm just would like to hear from you, Carol, in terms of if you've had a chance to check in on either under section 17, 19, or 23 and just your comfort level in participating on this matter.
Sure, absolutely. So I did have a conversation with the attorney at State Ethics. They confirmed that because there is no financial component to my relationship with the rink, mainly through my husband's involvement as a member of the board for Belmont Youth Hockey, as a coach for Belmont Youth Hockey, and my children's participation level at Belmont Youth Hockey, that in these general conversations, there is no conflict. We did discuss when it could be a potential conflict, and that would be looking into setting rates specifically for Belmont Youth Hockey, where we do pay our bills for my kids to participate. That would be something that would typically not involve me anyway. So, but if that ever did come up at a conversation, that would be something that they would want to have another conversation about. So I did actually file with the town clerk the form, just to clarify. So if there is the appearance of a conflict of interest, I have filed that paperwork with the town clerk as of today, just to establish what my connection is to the rink through Belmont Youth Hockey.
Cool. Thank you for that. And for folks following along at home, the select board doesn't adjudicate or decide whether there is the appearance of a conflict of interest. Filing the disclosure is, it's not something that the select board judges or take it up or we have any say on. So once that's been filed, that at least checks that box. And if there's actually a conflict of interest, then it becomes a separate matter. And then I believe I might mix up these numbers a little bit. I believe 17 is divided loyalties, where it might appear if you're advocating on behalf of an organization that has an interest in the matter, but also representing the town where the select board has jurisdiction in that matter, then you're representing or advocating both parties. Section 19, as Ms. Barbarian described, is financial interest. And quite particularly, it doesn't matter how small that financial interest might be, it still precludes you from participating. And as she described, that has to do with even anything that might impact setting the rates or the organization's decision to rent time or what time or how much time that might be. So it can end up actually touching a lot of areas of rink operations. And then lastly, section 23 is the appearance of conflict of interest, which we've already talked about. And that's the only one where you can file a disclosure to waive participation.
As a follow-up to that, I had also asked a couple of questions because as residents, taxpayers, and general beings in the town of Belmont, the three of us all have children in the school system. and yet we weigh in on things like that. My parents are seniors in town, and we still have items that impact senior tax law and council on aging. I think that we really extend to a lot of different areas of our community, and that is probably part of the reason that people elected us to be sitting in these seats, is that we are involved. But I did go through a very thorough conversation with her, explained what my husband does, my lack of connection to Belmont Youth Hockey through anything other than supporting my children in their sports. But we really went through potential options that could come up in the future.
And for the people following along home, could you explain why there's a significant distinction between Belmont Youth Hockey and the school system in town in terms of these ethics rules?
The attorney actually didn't really feel that there was much of a difference there, except for if there was something to be changed about the rates of the rink and paying for that program.
Right,
So if the rates of the rink were to directly impact the cost of Belmont Youth Hockey going up, then that would be a question. But as I mentioned, I've had no conversation about setting of rates for Belmont Youth Hockey. I have absolutely no connection with setting time for Belmont Youth Hockey to use the rink from an organizational standpoint or from a town standpoint. So
just for people following along at home, one of the major distinctions is how broad the impact or the participation is. So something like the schools is more than even 10% of the residents, and it's actually closer to 20% when you count just the students, and when you count their families, it's much higher than that. And so it's called a common or an issue in common. And when it is just a couple hundred people, it tends not to meet that threshold. And that's a major distinction between the example like the school system and the rink operations. Thank you.
Thank you for that discussion. Just returning to the policy. So let me just let me just break it into our parts and start with the easiest one first. It makes sense to everybody that this takes effect upon the dissolution of the building committee.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, to be clear, I also pay fees through Belmont Youth Hockey and setting the rates and would potentially affect the rates that I pay. So I will not weigh in on anything. I've filed the requisite disclosures with the town clerk, and I won't weigh in or participate on anything that involves setting the rates or might affect Belmont Youth Hockey's decision to rent time or how much time they would rent.
Okay.
And just to be clear, the law does not allow us to delegate that authority and absolve members of that conflict.
Okay.
So broadly, I think it does make sense to have some sort of, this plays into the transition plan. I think general operations and in the handbook does, I believe, contain components of rate setting. So I won't comment on that portion of it. There's good examples on how to resolve that. And then the ambassador, I think, can just be the chair. The part that I think is important in this paragraph is just being really clear that staff doesn't report to us, right? Not individually, like collectively, the board is the town administrator's boss, but not individually, we aren't that boss, right? And, could you imagine you've ever had a job where your grand boss, that would be your boss's boss, like meddles in your day-to-day? Like it's awful, right? Like, imagine your great grand boss comes in and meddles in the day-to-day. And that's just terrible for our town if it were to ever happen. And so I think it's a really important point of emphasis to make sure that, us individually and also collectively, that we're not taking a supervisory or administrative or operational role on the day-to-day of their staff's jobs. That's actually a really scary situation, and it's being a nightmare boss if and when it happens.
Yes, I agree.
I don't think it does, but I just want to be precautious, and I appreciate the emphasis here.
Got it. So just take away, you think this would be stronger if we said the chair shall, so I guess it seems like the two of you are not like super enthused by the rink ambassador role, which is fine. We can say, I can think of two alternatives, right? Either we strike it all together and say, hey, none of us has any special role affiliated with the rink, Or we say, hey, the chair shall fulfill ceremonial duties on behalf of the select board, but shall have no other special executive, supervisory, administrative, operational, or policy
You
making.
don't want to lock yourself in because sometimes the chair is not available.
Yeah, I think in the general convention is the chair is the ceremonial representative of the board. And if that person is not available, then you check with the vice chair. And if that person's not available, you check with the member. Like, I think that's convention. Maybe that should just be stated as a high level convention if we're all on board with that.
Can I also say, just in terms of this discussion tonight, I want to make clear that before the problem with the dehumidification of the rink has been running really well. We have been ramping up since November. I think Mike Carcio was in here not too long ago expressing, his satisfaction with how things are going. And I just don't want there to be a perception in the community that the rink is not being managed well. We have staff, we have facilities. We are getting revenue in. We are building up our revolving fund. We are coming forward in the fall with a plan for flooring to be able to use the rink next spring for other other types of things other than ice. So, I mean, there seems to be, every time we bring the rink to the board, this type of doom and gloom type of feeling around it. And I don't want the town to think that is the case. The rink is being run and managed very well by my office and my staff.
Yeah, I will add to that, Patrice. I think most people understand that. And I also think most people are exhausted of rink drama. I think people are starting to pick up on the fact that this is a successful facility, and they're getting tired of hearing from people who are saying it's not. Okay, what if we do this? What if we say strike the rink ambassador section, but we keep the other three sections that really just affirm what is de facto already true. The select board already sets the policy handbook. The TA already runs it in accordance with the Town Administrator Act, and this will be formalized upon the dissolution of the rink building committee.
I think the other thing you have to just state is it's the Belmont Sports Complex, not the rink. I
think it says Belmont Sports Complex in.
No, I'm talking about the rink management.
But it's not just, you're not just managing the rink, it's the whole complex. It's the dressing rooms. Right. There's more outside of just the ice sheet room.
Okay.
We generally just, every time we see rink, we just say Belmont Sports Complex.
Gotcha.
Sometimes.
But isn't the policy handbook called the rink policy handbook?
I believe it's the Belmont Sports Complex.
Okay, so.
Parentheses rink.
Do you mind if I borrow your pen? Okay, thank you. So
take your color
through here and. Okay, so. Rink.
Do we have a rink policy handbook?
Yeah, it was drafted. I mean, it was drafted in late fall.
I apologize for not knowing this off the top of my head. It would be really helpful to have, if we don't already, a select board policies page. And to have, because we have like the comprehensive policies linked, but it's also right now, and this isn't like an immediate thing, but the policies are all in a PDF, and now we have multiple PDFs. And whenever some magical day when we have time, I'd love to have those actually linked more directly and more searchable. But also just for select board members, so we can readily pull them up. Like as we develop more policies, we'll want them to be more searchable.
We did standardize the format, so.
That's right, all those things, right?
We're moving to that.
And, but even just having a list of select board policies so that when we add this one, people can find it.
That's actually easy.
Don't say it's easy.
No,
don't say it's easy in advance.
All right.
So I didn't find the policy handbook. So I just, to reiterate my prior point, I think that if we're going to base this with roots in the policy, that we look at the policy. So we're looking at everything holistically. And then my only other concern is that so much falls to your office, Patrice, that putting this solely on you, I just felt it would be worth discussing if it's appropriate.
So I think the problem is we need more staff at the rink, honestly.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And I also want to reiterate, there are a lot of great things happening at the rink. And I think that there are more things to come. You know, I mean, there has been feedback about hours and everything, and it is ramping up. The setbacks with the mechanicals are definitely a challenge. I'm not opposed to this in theory. I just feel like we need to discuss it and flesh it out a little bit more to make sure that this is the best path forward.
Yeah, I guess the urgency I have, Carol, is that, I mean, I saw that you were on that call on Friday, and I can just, and I have spoken with the chair since then, and these guys are just like dying to wrap up. I think they want to be done, and we need to give them a landing place to build the transition plan around. And that was the whole idea behind this, is that, okay, well, this is where we're headed towards. So what does the transition plan look like?
No, and I can support that. I've had different feedback from a few members of the committee about wanting to hold on to things a bit longer. So I mean, and I'm not, and I just was there to listen at that meeting, as I have been at many.
I mean, they were just here tonight.
Yes.
Right, they're just here tonight, and Mark's wants to wrap this up in the fall.
Guys, is there like, what were you thinking about the effective date? Like, is there something in the handbook which already exists that's incompatible with the municipal rink building committee?
I guess, I don't know. I mean, I think that effective date came into play because of.
It's so tangled right now.
It is.
You saw it.
I tried to ask a question
It's
and
very, I mean.
So like Dave, our director of facilities, is not on the building committee. There's actually no member of facilities on the building committee.
Right.
So I appreciate that the chair and the vice chair of the rink building committee are willing to collaborate and work with facilities. But for example, they had to hold an emergency meeting, right? And I think some of the intent of this policy is so that if something does come up, we don't have to wait for a select board meeting for it to happen. And a lot of the day-to-day operations, and this is some of what I don't know, we're all living in operating the rink together, but it's kind of like through informal cooperation as opposed to formal transition practice or having facilities actually involved or giving our town staff standing. And so I want to kind of say like, hey, if there's nothing in these like first two paragraphs that's at odds with the municipal rink, I'm going to fumble that tongue twister all night. Municipal Rink Building Committee, you know, how they're currently working, then I think these first two policy paragraphs kind of sum it up. And then there's the handbook, which I'm not going to go into the details of that because it contains things that could involve financial matters.
Okay, so just to get back to kind of the root of why this is important now, I think that we are just continuing to discuss things that we are learning as these building committees are coming through. We're not in a position to change the building committees because they were, of course, created by the town moderator through town meeting. And so these are great points that we can apply to any future projects. But I think we've really landed in such a unique position with the rink. It is open. Your office is handling operations. You are managing Eric, and the rink building committee is working on the things that they are still working on. So we're really in an already complicated position. I don't see this changing much at this moment in terms of the operation, but I do think as we continue to get to that point that the committee is going to be dissolved, that we really want to look carefully at what is the best policy going forward. And I really think that looking at the handbook as part of this is important.
Well, we did look at the handbook. Like when the select board approved a handbook, and we don't like when we reference policies or the general bylaws or state law, we don't say, hey, let's not write this until we go reread them. We say, okay, we're gonna, like, this is the governing document. It's either MGL or some handbook or the town bylaws, zoning bylaw, whatever it is. So I don't think we need to go back to the handbook. Again, I think this is really just comes down to organizational management, right? We need to transition these to town management, or we need to transition the rink, especially to town management, because it's complicated and because, and because we're heading towards fall. To do a transition plan, we have to say this is where we're landing. Like, we know we're at point A, We want to get to point B. What does the middle look like? And so I would like to approve this as amended tonight so that I can start working with Mark to do that transition plan.
I think we're in a very different position right now than we were last fall when that was last reviewed. I think we've learned a lot. We know more about the building, and I think we're in a better position to understand what's better
When
going
was last
forward.
reviewed?
When you said that it was reviewed last fall, the rink policy.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the handbook can always be looked at again. I mean,
We can always amend the policy. This is just not.
it's just, there have been other things, obviously other challenges with the rink that we've been dealing with. So, yeah, I mean,
this says in here that, I mean, we've already established it, but, you know, it says and amend the rink policy handbook, right? So, which is already true.
But the handbook was also created not just for staff, but also for the users. And it was really just to try to start the framework of, because it wasn't the old rink. The old rink was not anywhere operational as the.
That's right. Having an operations manual and like this is what businesses do. This is how you standardize practices. Like this is a basic part of operating efficiently and consistently. You know, having a checklist is really powerful. So the thing I just highlight in here would be line 2, where it says contracts. That's an area where the town doesn't yet have authority to act. While the building committee is still in process. So we can't do that. The other things in here, we're talking about policies that have already been discussed and are being used, right? The handbook's actively has been used and being used. And I like, is there something in these first 2 paragraphs that you think is controversial or problematic, Carol?
I think it's not very smoothly written. You know, some of the sentences, I just think we can polish this more. But my main point when I was looking at this in preparation for the meeting, I was looking at this in conjunction with the transition plan and everything else that's going along with it. I just don't see a lot of value in putting this in place right this second if we're going to have to change it
We
as
cannot
we continue to do
We
that.
can't start the transition planning unless we know where we're going. And so we're supposed to meet on the 8th. Our next select board meeting is the 10th. If we don't take care of this tonight, then I can't do anything with Mark.
I totally disagree with that because the town administrator is running rink operations right now and contracts go through the standard process once the rink building committee isn't there. You know, I mean, I'm not arguing this just to argue it. I just don't see the value in this, the way it's written. I think it's clumsy in spots and doesn't address
The way we've been doing it since the building committee is in existence, it goes chair to chair. That's generally how we've worked it.
Yeah.
I know when Matt was chair and there was an issue that came up, it was chair to chair.
Yeah, other than, and this kind of links into liaisons, right? Liaisons kind of codifies, hey, rather than the chair to chair convention, we're going to have someone else. And that prevents confusion and mixed signals for folks or going around to different people until they get the answer that they'd like to hear. And that's really important. And I think these kinds of policies also help us manage that. Maybe I also appreciate, Taylor, I think another way people might have heard what you're saying is to act with the end in mind. And so it's kind of like, hey, where do we want to get is you have an operational manual that is a living document. And, you know, we're constantly learning and then documenting those learnings. And then saying like, hey, you know, the 3 of us meeting fortnightly or however it ends up being is not the way to run day-to-day operations, right? We're volunteers, allegedly part-time, that, you know, we're 3 different people, and we want to professionalize things so that there's consistency and efficiency. And I think the more we wait for delay till there's a meeting, hook things into open meeting law when they could get an answer or repair much more efficiently, knowing who to contact. Like we want to professionalize those things so that we can do more with the budget we have because our buying power is decreasing every year.
And I understand that we still can't do that without the rink building committee being dissolved. But to wrap this up, because it doesn't seem like we are making progress, you two have the votes if you want to move this forward right now. I think it should be looked at, polished a little bit more, and happy to take a deeper dive into it with looking at the rink policy handbook.
Yeah.
I mean, I think other than contracts in the second line, right, that might have to wait. Polish, I mean, we have kludgy documents all over, but maybe if it would give you what you need is, I am supportive of, the first two paragraphs minus contracts right now.
Yeah.
Right? Just because it's just documenting or writing, I mean, what is already the case. And so I view that as uncontroversial. And then maybe after that, there's just, I would even be supportive if we really wanted to wordsmith it to say, kind of like this, and the town will take over all contracts upon dissolution of the municipal rink building committee, and then it's covered, and we have at least the end
This is
in
why it's
mind.
messy, because the town holds the cleaning contract, which is part of the rink. I mean,
Yeah.
this is why, this is what it is.
That's right. It's a number of those lessons that, when people say like,
We
one of
hold the Galaxy contract, which is all the,
one of the commenters said like, hey, why were these vendors picked? And the answer is, the select board at the time didn't pick them. It was the purview of the building committees. That's the way they've been set up by town meeting. And then you can go to the moderator, but all the people on these building committees have a lifetime appointment. So there isn't really much that the moderator can do, and there's no mechanism other than, I think, with severe cause. So that's what it is, right? And I think, while it's a dissatisfying answer, that's why folks, when they're unhappy, we're told to direct their frustrations elsewhere. I think this makes it clear who's running the rink to the extent that we can. And I take to heart your bit on contracts. So maybe we can merge what Carol's been saying is we remove contracts from here, at least just for now, but need to revisit it to specify contracts. But that at least gives you what you need to act with the end in mind.
Can I offer an alternative? Sorry. Can we make a motion to allow you to engage in conversations with the chair of the rink building committee to engage the transition process? Because I think that that's the logical next best step. And that way you can use what you gain through that process to decide how this should be set up and what's included. Because everything is going to eventually come to Patrice's office, essentially. But I think we just want to make sure it's set up in a way that is actually accurate.
But this just comes back to, we need the end in mind. We need to have the end in mind to do the transition process.
But I think we can't have the end until we know what the transition is going to look like. So allowing you to set up the transition is just logical.
So I'll throw out there is what I think the end in mind is we want to professionally run rink. Right? We
want to run by staff.
We run it. Yeah, run by staff. We want it run in a consistent, equitable manner that keeps all 27,000 Belmont residents in mind, and fulfills, to the best that we can, the vision that was stated to voters, right, in terms of trying to get revenue and run it as close to revenue neutral as we can. We said we would allow the school sports teams ice time for free. We said we would have host public and community programs, right? So that's probably not an exhaustive list, but I think this basically allows us the framework to deliver on that. And I think it's important for the discussion of the transition that we make it really clear that the select board wants a professionally run rink. And that's how we can do it most efficiently and deliver for our residents while supporting our staff.
Patrice, would it be accurate to say that your office is handling all operations of the rink outside of the purview of the building committee?
No, there's certain things that we have intentionally not touched because the building committee is in place.
So who would be doing that other than your office or the building committee?
No one, it's either me or the building committee. Oh, my office. Well, there's Dave too. I mean, Dave's a piece of this as well. So,
well, Dave falls under your office.
Right. So Dave's under my staff. So does that answer your question?
It does, but I think it just solidifies my position that I don't see what this is changing, because that's already what's happening. Is you have been doing anything that's not under the purview of the building committee and have been very accommodating when the building committee is open to collaboration. And Dave has been great about collaborating in as many opportunities as possible.
I think where this discussion came from, Carol, is the liaisons, and there was this idea that the rink needed a liaison. And similarly to like a DPW doesn't have a select board liaison. It's a department that delivers a service to the town. This is the rink. We are delivering a service to the residents. Right now, it's a very specific service, but we plan to, expand that. So I think that's where this conversation started. And I think the board conversation, correct me if I'm wrong, was whether or not the rink, once the building committee goes away, what's the purpose of the liaison? I think that was the question.
Well, and I think that Taylor had pretty well articulated that we didn't really need a liaison at that point.
Right.
Correct. But again, we step back. Again, the reason we've gone to the trouble of policy is when you step back and it's like, what does this job even do? Right? You answer, what you step into is this conversation of like, okay, how exactly is this rink run? So I just want to clarify a question for you, Matt. So you want to strike contracts and you want to strike the effective date?
And we can strike the rink ambassador. Yeah.
And the rink
ambassador. And then just, where it says rink, say Belmont Sports Complex or whatever.
Okay.
But it's just for clarity, right? So like we're talking about hierarchy of laws, right? Select board policy can't override the bylaws in town.
That's right.
And then the bylaws in town can't override state law. And so I think we should all be very consistent on that. So even if we say contracts here, it doesn't change that the rink, the municipal rink committee has purview over the contract or most contracts until it's dissolved. And that's some of the messiness that I guess, will hope to be ready to clean up in the fall.
So, I would entertain a motion to approve as amended along those lines. So change the four mentions of rink to Belmont Sports Complex, striking contracts from line 2, striking the rink ambassador role, and striking the effective date.
Could I also just make one comment in the box up above? It should say adopted, not affected.
Adopted. Yeah. Okay. So.
So moved to approve the Belmont Sports Complex policy as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. So next, let's go back to the agenda. Okay. So discussion on select board liaison roles and liaison appointments. I think that was the outstanding item from.
So my staff cleaned up the list. Just wanted to make sure it was what you voted last time.
I think so. And just make sure we're getting the appointment letters out to folks.
Yeah. Can I ask a question on the Belmont Middle and High School Building Committee? That was blank last time and now it's Tom.
I asked my staff that. Okay. I think they forgot to put his name on. It's always been Tom.
Yes.
Since you rolled off. Yeah, no, that was a mistake on my staff's part.
Okay. But I believe we discussed these all last time.
Yep.
So I would entertain a motion to approve unless there's more comments or questions.
Nope. Moved to approve the 2026 Select Board member assignments as.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then the last thing was, so discussion on ways to use IT to create more efficient processes in the select board and town administrator's office.
I was expecting this to be the thickest part of.
I know, right? I'm like, where's all the paperwork? I think this is just building off of, so me and Jake just like completely transformed that. I got to tell you guys, it took me about 4 months just to figure out who was on what committees. And so they did such a good job of overhauling that so that any one of us can now go in and figure out who's on what committee, how long have they been on there, when's their term up, what's the committee's charge, all these questions that as the executives of the town we need at our fingertips.
Contact information too.
Exactly. All the stuff that should be easy to get is now easy to get thanks to them. And so I'm like, okay, what else? There might be a couple other low hanging fruit that we can grab, and wanted to open up this discussion.
So I know I have a list of things that I've been eyeing. I think it's sometimes having the right people in place. As the IT department has grown and developed and we've gotten more expertise, it's given us the ability to implement the boards and committees. Bringing on someone like Jake, bringing on Mia, our communications person, just allows us to be able to move these things forward. When you come in the office and say, what is this mess I'm looking at? We are able to kind of work together and clean it up. So one of the things, and I had a couple of conversations with the clerk on this, town clerk, is given the number of committees that we have in town, given the number of volunteers we have in town, given how they rotate in and out, people aren't serving on committees for 30 years as they used to, right? We're looking at ways to interact with those volunteers of the community to make it not so intimidating, to make it easier for them to kind of understand what their role is, specifically as chair. When they want to hold a meeting or they want to have a public forum or work with my office. So one of the things I've talked to Ellen about and working collaboratively with her is thinking of ways to make posting the agendas easier. Right now, it can be a little bit of a process. There's a lot of pieces to it, and whether or not there's a way to make those pieces maybe a fewer pieces, so we can kind of get people to feel more comfortable using it, to be able to post agendas in a more timely manner. Sometimes that 48-hour restriction can really, if you miss it, you can't have your meeting, things like that. So we're really looking at what other towns are doing to make this, easier for not only staff, but also the user and all the committees. Because we can't support all the committees. We have liaisons to some, but we can't support all of them. And I think, if we can make it easier for volunteers, maybe we'll get more volunteers. That's kind of what the thinking is. So the agendas are definitely something that we're going to be working with Ellen to hopefully bring forward. We have some ideas. I know IT has some ideas, so we're hoping to do that. With the onset of OpenGov, which we brought online on July 1st, we're doing planning and building. The next step is to move to Board of Health. What I want to do more than anything is to move to business licensing. I want to make business licensing really just simple and easy, not again, just for staff, but for the people that are looking to get licensing, whether it's liquor licensing, business licensing, any type of licensing that we provide the town to residents. OpenGov is going to give us that opportunity, and we're looking actually forward to FY28 to do that. And then those are the two big ones that I have. The other thing, and then Carol and I talked about, is communication and how communication comes into the office. I know that we've had conversations in the past with other select board members, other iterations of the board. As information comes in, how do we make sure it gets out so residents feel like they're being responded to? That's one that has always been rather challenging because, as you know, sometimes the Belmont, the select board mailbox, sometimes we get spam, sometimes we get simple questions that, what time is my trash pickup, today? And some of those things we handle in-house. But I know Carol has expressed some concerns in regards to that. So this is an opportunity to kind of just talk about IT and whether or not the board has any ideas or, comments as to some of those things that I just mentioned.
Yeah. So I just want to reiterate something you said about the agendas, and a comment on the business licensing. So I think for me, the operative phrase is we need to improve the volunteer experience because we are not paying anybody to volunteer for Belmont. So the only reason anybody would do it is because they feel like it's a rewarding use of their time. That means two things. One, making sure, setting up our committees to actually be to do as much good as they possibly can for the town, and to minimize the pain points that come with serving on a committee. So I think, as somebody who chaired a couple of committees, the pain of the agenda system was really painful. And I think in 2026, it's perfectly reasonable to see if we can digitize it more to remove the number of steps that are involved for a chair, so the chair can focus on driving their committee's agenda forward. And so you said business license, and then onto business licensing, you said that comes
We're looking at
Next.
FY 2028, so July 1 of next year.
July 1 of next year. So what we've done is buildings.
We've done planning and building,
Got it.
zoning. We need to do Board of Health. That's the next one. And then hopefully business licensing. Again, this is working with the town clerk's office. The town clerk's also a piece of that business licensing. I know, Matt, you've seen the system and how challenging it can be to export out information. Some of it, outdated. What we would like is for it to all be able to just flow right up to the website. So it not only will make everything more transparent, user-friendly, and when we are seeking information, and if the board wants to report on number of licenses or any issues that have come into place with the business, it will all be right there. And currently, we just don't have the system that we need to make it run more efficiently. It also will help with, obviously time, people's time. You're not spending time looking for things or trying to figure out what something means.
And time is money. So when we save time, we save money. Okay. So you said the agendas, like kind of in terms of digitization, we're talking about the agendas, we're talking about business licensing. You said there was a third one?
Oh, the communication, as the communication comes into the select board's office.
So what does that mean?
So I can explain my question on that. But first, just to kind of keep in what you had just gone through with the agendas, I love the idea of having the agendas simpler. And I think that there's a lot we can do with that as well. When you're on the website, and it is sometimes different if you're on a mobile browser versus a desktop, and figuring out, do I click here? Do I click download agenda? So I click download agenda, and then it brings me to a new page with a hyperlink, and then I click on that. I think if we can somehow get it to be a little bit easier, that you just click on the meeting and the agenda opens, I think that would be wonderful. We've talked on many occasions about how to find the relevant information, and Planning Board and ZBA at times had linked cases to their agenda. So that way, once the agenda is open and you say, okay, this is the one that's relevant to me, my neighborhood, whatever I'm interested in, then if there is relevant documentation that's available for the public, that it just hyperlinks through. And I don't know how we can set that up in an easy way. I think a lot of us can embed a hyperlink into this, but just making sure that everyone understands how the mapping works in a simple process could make it a lot easier. I know the select board has the page on the town's website with meeting information, and it's a little bare sometimes. So I just think it would help if there's certain things that people could look at to decide, is this something that I have to comment on in advance, or do I like what's here? The business licenses, love that. Just anything to make that simpler. So really like the path on there. You had mentioned Board of Health. Was that just in connection to the business licenses and the licenses?
It's OpenGov. It's the next module for OpenGov that we need to go to. So you can do permits online.
Right.
For the Board of Health.
But okay, so Board of Health and town clerk. So I mean, there's some of us that we don't have to go to the Board of Health, that we go to the building department to get our home occupancy permits. And
that's what we're doing in July 1. We're doing that. So Board of Health, we didn't have that module, so that's the next module.
Okay, great.
Good stages.
And then in terms of the communication, as the newest member of the board, I had conversations with Patrice where I had said, someone mentioned that they sent an email to Select Board and maybe I missed it, maybe I didn't get it. And that's when Patrice had explained that if it's something like, when does my trash get picked up? That doesn't typically get circulated to the board, which I understand because administrative responses, and very grateful for the number of things that you got response to keep us focused on more resident-specific things that we could be weighing in on. But I did have the thought that as the intended recipient of those messages, is there a way that we can still see that? So whether we are CC'd on the outgoing reply or something, just so that way there's not communication that a resident sent with the intent of it coming to us that we are not aware of. But I do think that in terms of the process flow, it is something that really needs to be discussed. And what I had mentioned is that if it's a question that I would need to ask you, Jake, Pam, Matt, DPW, whoever, to answer, I'm going to trust that you will forward it along and I'll be copied on the reply. So that way we can know that that was addressed. But workflow is obviously important, and not creating too much more is an important part of that conversation.
Got it. So I guess maybe I'm not tracking. So you're saying that if someone calls and is asking like, when is my trash pickup?
No.
And, okay, what do you, sorry?
If someone sends an email to selectboard@belmontma.gov, it does not always come to us.
That's right. I think but I thought the example you were giving, if someone like emails the select board and says like, when's my trash pickup? It just gets forwarded to DPW, right? Or
Yeah, I mean, we're like triage. We triage the complaints that come in. And sometimes they warrant us to forward them along, but sometimes it's something that one of my department heads can just send a quick email and update somebody on. I think what my concern is, and I expressed it to Carol, is if we send out 3 emails to each of you, we get 6, but we'll get it all back and it will go to a bunch of different places. I'm concerned. Because if you see something, because I do it now, if I see an email and I'm like, oh, I have to respond to that, the urge is you want to respond. And I'm concerned that it's going to generate a lot of work and response.
Yeah, I feel obligated to respond when I receive an email from the select board inbox, right? So I guess, I mean,
we've tried in the past to talk about one select board member taking the lead, but then other select board members are like, no, if I want to respond to something, I'm going to respond to something. So we kind of came up with just this. I did emphasize with my staff that they should be pushing stuff out. So we shouldn't be missing anything that isn't of substance. So I think I appreciate the point that you kind of want to know what's coming in. You kind of want an idea of what it is. I don't know how to do that without burdening staff a little bit more. That's the only thing.
What percent of the emails would you estimate your staff actually forwards?
I'd have to ask.
It's very small, right?
Yeah. Like I can tell you the last few days we got a lot about Chestnut Street.
It's a lot of, but putting that aside, like it's a lot of spam, right? You put
a lot of vendors.
Yeah, it's a lot of vendors, right? Yeah. And even some of those, have automated systems that try to scrape your email address and you'll get vendor spam directly sent to you. I really appreciate the triaging, and I worry that passing on a higher percentage of the emails leads to more work and more confusion, right? You get 3 responses instead of 1, potentially 4 or 5 if staff has also done. And also there's, I think, some risk of, chained deliberation if those emails get forwarded to other board members, or someone says, hey, wait a second, one member sent me this, but you sent me this. And now so I think there is some risk that I think we should avoid, but frankly, we're not staffed up to have a customer management system is essentially what we're talking about, right?
But to your point, Carol, though, I do remember in the past having this almost, it's like deja vu, having this conversation again. My department heads, if they do respond, they should be copying the board. So I can reiterate that if they are responding to a select board mailbox response, they should copy the board in. And I think, sometimes staff just kind of lose sight of that, but I can definitely make sure that they're doing that. I think that's,
or maybe see if you just error a little more on including stuff for a bit, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Well, and I mean, I've had the practice of, if I am responding to something that I think will be relevant to you, I copy you.
Yep.
And obviously I don't copy the 2 of you, but when you see what I'm sending out, you know what I mean? I copy you on a decent number of things because I feel like it's important that you're part of the chain of communication. But I really just feel that as the intended recipients, seeing what comes in, because as we mentioned previously in the meeting, we're around town a lot. We talk to a lot of people and people approach us, and I don't think that people are necessarily referencing, hey, I asked when my trash got picked up. Did you see that message? So I think that those are great. And it is really nice that the staff does respond to those, and they do a wonderful job at it.
So I have not yet had the experience of someone saying like, hey, I emailed you guys and never heard back from you. But if you have, maybe we can use that. Maybe you can work with Patrice and staff and use that as a case and be like, okay, why did this not make it through, and should it have made it through? Because it's hard for me to consider, because I don't want to get all these vendor emails and spam emails. I don't have space in my life for that, and it distracts me from doing the actual select board work that we do, which is respond to constituents. But if we are not getting constituent emails that are things that we should be responding to, I think that's perfectly like we should address that. So if you've got some in mind, I would love to, work those.
Yeah, the goal is not to have you feel you're not getting the information. It's just, again, it's just whether or not it causes more work.
Yeah, we need to minimize, not create more work, and not do it in triplicate.
Yeah.
And then also, like if it is a like day-to-day operations question, like that needs to be handled by staff. And I really like your suggestion, Taylor, about, pick a couple cases where you felt you weren't getting emails, and then work with staff to understand why those weren't forwarded to everybody. And then perhaps that helps tune the triage process.
Yeah.
So
there's open questions, we can bring it back and discuss here. Like, what do we want to see and not see?
Yeah, I think the 45 Chestnut's an interesting example, right? Because that's a planning board issue overwhelmingly, but people are writing the select board.
Yeah.
I do think if we had the option, because I understand that you don't want all of the other messages, at this point, and it could just be that I am new in the position, I do think I'd like to be on the auto distribution, because I also found that, especially over July 4th weekend, getting messages a couple of days later, which I completely understand because the staff was off as they should be and enjoying their weekend. But I do think if there was the automatic forward, that would be helpful. And I'm confident that I can use my discretion in what I know will be responded to administratively as opposed to what I should get involved in. I think that if it was going to be a question of me forwarding emails to different department heads and things like that, that's not within the scope of what most of those would entail.
Yeah, I don't know, that sounds like more work for staff and more confusion for everybody.
Right, but I think that having the option to have the email come in and, trusting the option to not create more work.
For people following along at home, poor Patrice has a three-headed boss with a personality that rotates around.
Do you mind, can we pull up, start with a couple of these cases so that we can, because I agree with you. If somebody's not getting the attention they're supposed to get from the select board, we should figure out what went wrong and why, and then fix that problem.
Yeah, learn from experience. That's a great idea.
The problem is I don't know what I'm not receiving.
No, I thought you said.
I've had people mention it to me, but as I mentioned to Patrice, when we meet weekly, I have a lot of people that talk to me about a lot of different things. And there are some people in town who I do not know your names, and you know who I am. And I love talking to you, so please continue to approach me, but I don't always know exactly specific cases on this. And so I did let her know that I would be more aware, when that comment comes up, but.
Yeah.
Well, great.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, can I get back to the IT part? Because I don't think we have an IT solution for this at the moment. No. I just want to shout out a couple of things. First of all, big fan of OpenGov for just getting the start. And this is going to be a big, it's really the platform that other communities are using too. So standardizing and being on par or more business and process friendly than all of our co-opetition in the region is, I think, just prudent budgeting and operations. Agendas and minutes. I think we should separate out two things. Taylor, you talked about the volunteer experience, and I sound like that's where we were going to focus. The first thing is the process of posting an agenda. Clerk staff is, I think, can be pretty busy, especially at times of year where there's an election or things like that, right? It can feel really feast or famine for those hardworking folks. And so being able to automate and turn around posting of agendas and having a consistent experience there rather than having to wait for when the clerk's office staff has time to do it could be win-win, especially if it's done collaboratively between the administrative office and the clerk's office. I want to highlight a couple other things that are actually underway and I think will make a big difference. GIS. Especially around, I get questions like, when will my street be paved? What did you pave last year? Things like that. So there's stuff in the works. I don't have a deadline for people where the GIS layers are being developed. So people will be able to see the progression of what pavement is going on. We've this kind of touch alerts and notifications, especially with hiring a social media coordinator and stuff, right? We finally have one person in all of Belmont whose job is communications. Because when I started doing this a couple of years ago, I was like, nobody's job is full-time. Now we have somebody. And it is making a big difference, especially when we see people who are getting their information first from social media or like sites like Nextdoor, which is not, those are not reliable sources for information. So the counter to that is we have to give people a better alternative that is a credible source. The assessors software is still being rolled out. So I don't know when we'll flip over the link, but that's coming, and that's going to be a 30-year jump in technology. We have more with forms. You may have seen this come up. This is not just a volunteer portal, but things like forms. So engineering and DPW are working on forms to submit things around like street crossings or other issues, crossing safety. So more to come there. And then when I cycle back to Carol's comment, because she was talking about also the user experience with the agendas and minutes. And that sounds like it might be a Civic Plus request, because that kind of goes into their agenda minutes document center module. But I think it's worth asking. And then lastly, just on the email front, I think the triaging and trusting our staff is really important. Like that's the partner to solving it with technology, is trusting your staff. Thank you all.
Sounds good. So do you have, Patrice, do you have what you need from us to kind of?
Yeah, just a conversation, and I'll let you know the progress.
Yeah, I just think it's part of all of our job descriptions to try to solve problems with technology, because this is where we are, right? We got to embrace it, even if it's a little uncomfortable, and if it means updating how we do things and problem solving together along the way.
That's right. Okay. All right, I believe that brings us to the end of our agenda. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, Belmont.